it is too cold in here. I might add the blanket for extra cozy vibes because it is too cold. Okay, so this is a clickbaity title. I normally don't do clickbaity titles, so I'm just gonna skip right to the answer and then get into a bit more detail. The answer to the question in the thumbnail, how I reduced my phone screen time, is this app here called Offscreen. Yep. So I guess the first question is why this was an issue. I think, like a lot of people, my sort of demographic, my screen time was up to like 8 hours a day. Now I know that sounds absolutely ridiculous to people who don't have screen times like that, but I can almost guarantee that if you look at the screen time feature on your phone, it is higher than you think it is. Speaking to a lot of people, 8 hours was actually pretty standard. Sort of 6 to 8 is a lot of what I was seeing. Now I would like to stress, I don't think that 8 hours of screen time is automatically a bad thing. I wanted to reduce mine because the stuff that I was doing on my phone I didn't feel like was the best use of my time. Now if you want to spend 4 hours scrolling through Instagram and you're like, you know what I want to do right now? I really want to spend 4 hours scrolling through Instagram. Go wild. I don't think there is anything wrong with that, as long as you know how to have a healthy relationship with social media and you are making a conscious decision to do that. Fine, wild, valid, sure. The issue was that I wasn't making the conscious decision to do that. It was happening unconsciously and it felt beyond my control. And I think this is a feeling that a lot of people get. I got in from work, I'll rest for 10 minutes before I'm gonna, make dinner or whatever. I'll just spend 10 minutes scrolling through Instagram, and then it would be like 3 hours later and I'd have no idea where that time went and I would have no memory of the last 3 hours worth of content. And again, that sounds so ridiculous to people who don't relate to this, but actually I think if you talk to people, you'll find that this is a very, very common experience. So I decided I wanted to do something about it. Now I have done all sorts of things to try and reduce my screen time. The first thing that I think most people do, especially if you've got an iPhone, is to use the inbuilt screen time limiting things on your iPhone. So you can set up downtimes, you can set up time limits, but they are far too easy to bypass. You will very, very quickly be able to type a password and bypass it. And after a few weeks of it, I just completely ignored it. It didn't do anything impactful to my screen time at all. My friend G, if you're watching this, hello G, gave me a really good suggestion of putting the apps that I didn't want to use further into my phone, so I'd have to look for it. That helped a little bit. It didn't help majorly. But I did really want to tackle this problem and I couldn't think of any long-term solution. And I knew that I wasn't just going to be able to say, oh no, I'm not doing this, because I didn't want to be spending this amount of time on my phone. I was just doing it unconsciously, so I couldn't consciously say let's not do this because it wasn't as if it was a conscious decision in the first place. That was when I knew that I needed to try and look at some other ways that would help me tackle this issue, that wasn't just me making a decision about it. And that's when I looked at a few different apps, and the one that I eventually decided on was this one here called Offscreen. I do believe, this is a bit meta, isn't it? Say hello to yourself, and also the sign behind my camera. So I do believe that I pay for this. I know that I pay for this, but I do believe you have to pay for it to access all of the features. I don't know if it's just that I have a premium account. This is £3.50 a month, which is way more than I'd normally pay for an app. However, this is absolutely worth it and I do not regret paying for it at all. I do think you can get a free trial, so it might be worth doing that and seeing how it works. Essentially, I don't know why this works, you set yourself a time limit and it counts the seconds of how much time you spent on your phone that day. Yeah, it's literally just come up with a notification saying don't be on your phone. But if you have a look, I'm on, I don't know if it's going to focus it, I'm on 1 hour and 16 minutes, and as I'm sitting here with my phone on, that number is ticking up. And something about having that ticking up thing made me so aware of every single time I was on my phone. I could feel it, even if I couldn't see it, I could imagine it ticking up in my head and thinking, oh well, every single minute that I spend on my phone is a minute closer to my limit. Now once you reach your limit, you can override it. It doesn't actually stop you from doing anything. You can set in downtimes in the apps and stuff, but it's not as if once you hit the limit your phone is just locked. But you will lose your streak. And I really like a streak. So I first set it up to 3 hours. Again, 3 hours is going to sound like a long time to a lot of people, but this wasn't about me having no screen time. This was about me trying to make more conscious decisions about the amount of time that I spend on my phone, which just also happens to mean spending less time on my phone. As time went on, I almost found that it was too much. 3 hours was long enough for me to be able to open Instagram and start scrolling, and once I'd done that, that was it. So in quite a lot of cases, 3 hours was almost not strict enough as I got a little bit further into this. So that's when I changed it down to 2 hours. Now, 2 hours kind of ended up not being long enough, but in a strange way. So you can delete sessions on this app. So you can go in and say like, well, the last 10 minutes I spent on my phone were spent working, so I don't want them to count towards my, goal. But I was finding that at 2 hours I was just deleting it a lot. I was just like, oh yeah, this one doesn't count, and deleting it for some made up reason that I made up in my head. So obviously my screen time wasn't accurate. It wasn't actually representing how much time I was spending on my phone. So now the other day I completely cleared all the data from my app and started again, and I've set it to 2 hours, and I've told myself I'm not deleting anything. Regardless of why I use my phone, regardless of if I think it should count towards my time limit or not, I'm not deleting anything because I want to now sort of see a bit more about my habits after doing this for about 6 months or so. Now I'm down to about 2.5 hours a day, and I think that's absolutely fine. The time that I spend on my phone now is conscious. I don't think there's anything wrong with me scrolling through Instagram for half an hour when I wake up, because that's a conscious decision. That's me going like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed yet, let's scroll through my phone. I don't think there's anything wrong with, me spending 20 minutes going on a Google deep dive in Safari, whatever. I think it being as it is now does not impact my life. It means that I get to use my phone as a tool. It is useful, I get to talk to people, but it means that I'm more conscious about going down that rabbit hole. 2 months ago now, I had the flu and I was really ill. And when I had the flu, I would just spend 6 hours scrolling through Instagram at a time because there was literally nothing else to do, and it was the only thing that stopped me feeling rubbish. And I think that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But now, I wouldn't want to sit and finish this video and now sit and scroll through Instagram for 45 minutes before I get on with my day. But I used to do something like that, and I think a lot of people would do something like that as well. And that was what I didn't like. I didn't like the unconscious part of this control. So you're probably thinking, Amy, what do you do with all of the rest of your hours in your day? Honestly, I couldn't tell you. I don't feel like I'm doing more in my day than I used to, but I have more hours, so I must have been. But yeah, it feels better, I guess. It doesn't feel better to have more time because I don't actually know where that time is. It's just there. But it does feel better to be more conscious of the time that I'm spending on my phone. It doesn't matter that it's less. To me, I'm not bothered that it's less amount of hours. It's just, as I've said a few times now, the fact that it is more conscious that I like. The first thing that I immediately did, which I knew would be the hardest thing, was trying to distract myself from picking up my phone mindlessly. Because once I've picked it up, there's a good chance that I'm going to stay on it. So it's the initial picking it up that I wanted to avoid. And a way that I got around this was by keeping my phone in a book sleeve. So I carry a book with me pretty much everywhere I go. This is my book sleeve. It's got axolotls on it. This is the book that I'm currently reading. It is The Dance Tree by Kieran Millwood Hargrave. Goes in here, goes in my bag, keeps the book nice. For ages, my phone would live in here. Now if I'm walking around, if I'm out and about, my phone could go in my pocket, that's not the issue. But if I'm at work and I pick up my phone, my entire break is going to be spent scrolling through my phone. It's full 15 minutes, half an hour, however long my break is. I'm going to be sitting there scrolling through my phone. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to use my break to reset my brain and feel better. Whereas when I did it on my phone, that isn't what was happening. So when I'm at work or when I'm at home, phone goes in here, which means that if I go to reach my phone, I am faced with a decision. I'm faced with a decision to either pick up my phone or pick up the book. And that's what really helped me right at the beginning, because then I could go, well, what am I doing here? Am I picking up my phone because I want to talk to someone because there's a tool in it that I want to use? Or am I picking up my phone to kill time? And if the answer is to kill time, or if the answer is to rest, whatever it is, I pick up the book instead. And that made a massive difference. And it also meant in about May, when I started doing this, that I got through so much more reading in these first few weeks by doing this, and that really helped. And if this is something that you think would help you, I'd really recommend giving it a go. I am going to continue to use this app. I feel like I've got myself into enough of a habit now that if I didn't have the app I would still have a much reduced screen time, but the app has been proven to work and it doesn't cost me a lot of money, so I'm going to keep using that app and like at least minimum a year. I want a minimum a year, and then hopefully I'll have broken the like addictive, unconscious social media, you know, balance in my brain. But for now, I'm keeping it. I'm happy to give you some more like tips down in the comments, but honestly, that is my main takeaway, is that it was this one app, and also trying to force myself to make more conscious decisions, like keeping my phone in a book sleeve. I can also show you what I now spend my screen time on, which I think is interesting, because I don't think the proportion of it has changed that much. I still think the highest proportion by far is Instagram. I'm just spending a lot less on it than I used to. So today we are on, according to my like iPhone screen time thing rather than the app, 1 hour and 22 minutes today, and it is almost 3 o'clock. I have spent 34 minutes on Instagram, which I think is fine. I don't know if it'll tell me when. Yeah, it was actually last night. It was last night before I went to sleep, after midnight, which is a habit that I need to break, like going to sleep and scrolling on my phone before I go to bed. I was getting really good at it, and now I'm worse at it again, so I'm going to see if I can like break that habit. But actually a lot of that 1 hour and 22 minutes came from before I went to sleep last night. And then we have 11 minutes on Facebook, that was me looking something up. 9 minutes on Spotify, which is normally podcasts, you know, working out what podcast I'm going to listen to. 6 minutes on Messenger, 5 minutes on Snapchat, 4 minutes on Sweepy, which is my like chore app, and then 3 minutes on my bank, sorting finances out. I think that's all perfectly reasonable, and those proportions are probably about the same. If you do have any questions about this, let me know down in the comments. I'll try and answer them. But the TLDR is I downloaded an app and I forced myself to confront the unconscious picking up of my phone, and as a result massively reduced my screen time, even though reducing the screen time wasn't necessarily the original goal. Yeah, so new videos, I try to do it on the 1st and the 15th of every month. I've been consistent recently. Any requests or questions, leave them down in the comments, and I will see you next time. Bye!